Hi, I'm Alexander Maxim from YouTube. Today, we will continue our tutorial about the jQuery framework. In this part, we will check the AppendTo, PrependTo before and after methods to add content inside and outside our elements. Firstly, I've created some inputs with button for each method for the append, AppendTo, PrependTo, and before and after. Also a hidden or a title, the programming languages that I love, and I have an order list. In this unordered list, it contains just one item, it's the CSS, and this list has the class list languages. We need this class to append some elements to this list, to append the languages that I love to this list. And I have also for each input and button a special div with a class for the input for the append, and also a button input and div for AppendTo, etc. for all the methods. And I have added some CSS properties in my style.css file for the hidden and margin to the bottom, and for the list of languages I've added a list style square, this list style, and also some font size and margin from the top and bottom for the div. The input, this border, and the border radius is 5 pixels. For the button, this background color, border radius, a font size, a color for the font, etc. Some properties, and the cursor is pointer. Now let's start with our methods, and firstly we have the append method. What's the append method? This method used to add a specified content at the end of the selected element. The content can be an HTML element, for example, div, hidden image, etc. Can be also a text or a JavaScript elements, etc. This method will append or attach the content before the end tag of the selected element. But there is some elements like input, for example, or image can't show the added element. So it's better to append an element to another element that contains start and end tag, like the div, for example, or a hidden, a paragraph, a span that contains or the start and the end element, the end tags. Let's see an example to understand more this method and how we can use this method. Firstly, when we click on this button, so let's take the button append this class. Let's add a comment AppendTo or append, just this method append method, and when we click on this button, we will do a function. This function we will firstly use the elements that we want to append. So I want to append the value of this input to the list of languages. When I write something, for example CSS3, I want, when I click on append, to append or to attach this value to the list of languages. So I will copy the list languages class and append to this element another LE or another list item, like that. So I will append a list item. Now the list item is empty, the value is empty, I will get the value of the input that I have written. How to get the value? I will just copy the class and select the element or by the class and get the value like that. I will reload and see my page. If I write something like CSS3 and when I click on append, this is the action that I want. When I click, this value as appended to the list of languages. This is the append method. When we open the when we inspect the element or the list, another list, I will just open. Firstly, I have just one LE or one list item. When I write CSS3, see here I have another list item, CSS3. So now we have appended this item, list item with the value exists in our input to the list of languages. This is the append method. It append or attach or add an element after or in the end of the list languages. Now let's explain the AppendTo method. The AppendTo method is similar to the append method. The only difference is the order, but they do the same thing. The AppendTo add a specified content at the end of the selected element. To use it, we must reverse the order. Let's apply it to add, for example, another language. To apply it, we must just reverse the order of the select of the element that I want to add and the other elements. So I will reverse the content and the elements like that. It will be more clearly. Let's add a comment with the AppendTo, and I will copy and paste this function, and when we click on the button AppendTo, I will copy it and select this element like that. I will now, after building this list item with this value, I will append this value to this element. I will append this content to this element. It's the contrary of expected too much. Append, great. It's the contrary of, or the opposite. It's not the opposite, it's the reverse of the append. This element I will append for this element this content, and now I will append this content to this element. I will reload and see my page. So button AppendTo, and here append, I will just get the AppendTo class or value from the input, and I will reload and see my page. This is the CSS3, for example, and here I will type PHP. I will append the first element. This is the CSS3, and append to PHP after the CSS3. Always the append is in the end of the element. This is the AppendTo method. Let's now explain the third method, which is the Prepend method. The prepend used to add a specified content at the beginning of the selected element. It will ignore all elements and add the content after the start tag to be the first item. This is the prepend method. These methods like the create function in the database. It will add an element at the end of the table or at the beginning of the table. So let's see an example to understand more how to use this method. I will load my page. I have just one item, the append and AppendTo add a content after this item or in the end of the list languages. Now let's add a comment, or let's copy all this and use the prepend method. For the prepend, this is the bottom, and now I will just copy this line because it's like the append, it's not for the reverse. I will prepend for this element, this content. I will use the prepend method and change the input value to the input of the prepend method. Great. Now I will add the CSS3 for the append. Now we have CSS3 after the CSS. I will add the PHP. It will be after the CSS3. For the prepend, I will add an HTML language, and I will add prepend, and now it's before the CSS item. It's the first. The system added the HTML at the beginning of the list languages. This is the prepend method. Now, for the PrependTo method, it's or is similar to the prepend method. The only difference is the order as the PrependTo. So we have the append and AppendTo. Also we have the prepend and PrependTo. The only difference between them is the order. We reverse the content and the elements. Let's take an example to understand more. I will copy this line. Just we need to change the classes from the HTML. I will take this bottom and this value of input. Here I will prepend this content to this element. I will change and see my methods. So I have the CSS3, I will append it, PHP, append to the list. Then I have HTML, for example, and prepend to this value to this list. I will prepend HTML5, for example, and I will click on PrependTo, and now we have HTML5 at beginning of the list. After that, I have two other methods, before and after. Let's explain the before method. It allows adding elements front of the selected element. It's the same of append and prepend, but the difference is they add inside the selected element, but the before adds the elements outside our element, exactly before the element. It adds a specified content like the previous methods. Let's see an example to understand the difference between before and the other methods. So the before, I will copy this command. This is PrependTo. I will copy the command and write before, and when I click on the before, I will do a function. Click, I will do a function, and for that I will get this item before this item. I will add, for example, a paragraph, like that, and I will add the tag here. I will get the value of our input. I will just copy the class of the input before, and there is an expected space here. I will load and see my page. This is the CSS. When I will open my UL. Before the UL, I have a hidden. Inside the UL, I have just a list item. I will add the CSS3, and here PHP, HTML5, and here I have the HTML. I will just append, it's after AppendTo. Prepend, all this method is inside the list. I will PrependTo. So inside the list, when I, for example, I will start with HTML, HTML5, CSS, CSS3, then the PHP. So I will click on this button, and after the hidden and before the another list, I have another paragraph with the value that I have written here. I will start with, and this is the form. I will start with HTML, HTML5, CSS, CSS3, PHP. Now let's complete with the after method. The after method allows adding elements after the selected elements. There is no other sentence to explain what's the after method. It will attach the content after the end tag of the selected elements. The content can be HTML elements, text, etc. You can add anything to any element or elements. Let's apply this method using an example. I will get this value, and this value, it will be after this list. So I have the list, this is the elements of the list, I have the paragraph before this list, and now it will get other paragraph after this list, before this div. Let's copy and paste. I will add after in all elements here, input after, and I will change the method to after. Great. Now let's reload and see my page. So we have always the CSS3, and here PHP, HTML5, HTML. I will start with, and now, for example, done. I will append inside the list, AppendTo, Prepend, PrependTo. Before is before the list, and after is after our list. This is our list, the UL start tag and end tag, and we have the P or the paragraph after our list, and we have a paragraph before our list. This is what I have today. Thank you for your watching, and have